constantly shifting through the time-space continuum, Metron's three disciples observe the universe from the Mobius Couch.
I am my father's daughter in the end. He says, watch your ego, watch your head, girl. You're so smart, so talented. But now that the water's turning red, it's all your fault and it's all your mess and you're all alone, can't go to bed, too high on your adrenaline. You got to go somewhere where you can't pretend. Go forget the rules, forget your friends, just you and your reflection, because nothing's going to be the same again. No, nothing's going to be the same again. On the Mobius Couch. Ladies and gentlemen of the world, welcome back to the Mobius Couch, a time-space interdimensional vehicle from which your three hosts oversee the world of comics. I am Alessandro, and joining me on the couch, as usual, are Patrick.
Hey, how's it going? Love that song, Al.
Yeah, that's, of course, Welcome to My Island by Caroline Polachek, which is germane to the topic we're going to discuss.
Stop it. Stop trying to redo it. Just talk naturally. Just be natural.
I'm talking naturally. Sure. And also joining us is Joe.
Hey, Al. Hey, Patty.
Hey.
For the first time tonight.
I'm having deja vu right now.
Yeah, we definitely didn't do 30 minutes of this before realizing
it wasn't 30 minutes.
Okay.
It was like 10.
Speaking of islands, let's talk Krakoa, because tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to discuss X-Men. So you've already forgotten which one. Jonathan
the Dawn of X.
But it's Hickman's.
Hickman.
X-Men.
Yeah, Hickman.
Right.
We're doing X-Men 1 through 7 in the Dawn of X.
Yes. Follow up on a previous podcast we did, House of X, Powers of 10. And this is the core X-Men book run that immediately follows that. And that's what we're doing. So let's chat about it. Because
we did what other X-Men did we do? All right.
Well, we did Grant Morrison's New X-Men.
Yeah, that's it.
And then we did the House of X.
Yeah.
Okay. No, House of 10, whatever. We did that thing.
Yes.
House
of X, Powers of 10.
Which is also Hickman.
All right.
So overall takes. How did you all like the first 7 issues of X-Men?
So
let's keep it brief because we've already talked about this. So keep it brief.
Mine's the same as House of X. I love the Krakoan age. Everything between, I feel like, Astonishing X-Men and Hickman stuff, outside of like the small snippet of Bendis' stuff in the middle there. Like X-Men comics were kind of like, I think intentionally so by Marvel, like made to be like kind of shitty. They weren't the best. So this whole new concept of putting all the mutants on an island and taking them from being persecuted minorities to like a global superpower was, I thought, very refreshing. And I've read about 70% of the books that have to do with the Krakoa, and I've enjoyed pretty much all of it.
All right.
Al?
I didn't like it. All right, Joe.
It's funny.
Well, what do you want? Do you want me to go into detail? I mean, it's
no. We'll do it when we talk about it. No, it's fine.
I didn't like it.
Overall takes is you didn't like it. I liked it. I have questions for Patty because he's read more than me, so I have questions. But I liked it. I really enjoyed seeing mutants that were bad guys my entire life join with the mutants that were good guys my entire life, and all hanging out and trying to work out those relationships. That was interesting to me. Apocalypse is really cool in this storyline, and I've always appreciated that character. And watching him hug his grandchild, but also beat someone to death with a sword is really interesting. And they were on his side. But I really like him being weirdly calm and just like going to a conference with Xavier and Magneto. I thought that was interesting. There's a lot of fun stuff that I work here. I like their weird rule that they won't kill humans. So they're weirdly tolerant, but at the same time, they just beat the shit out of them or chop little limbs off. I liked how the story was jumping around and setting up a lot more to come. And that's kind of where my question comes in. I'm like, I wonder if all these pay off, because they kind of set up the first 7 issues of this kind of sets up like multiple like arcs to follow on. And I don't know how much of that is come to fruition, but I enjoyed the setup for them. So I'm in for it. I liked it. It was good.
Yeah, they pull a lot of
Alright.
characters from obscurity in the run, and like you said, I did love Apocalypse. Seeing like this weird tender side to him, but also he still retains that ominous presence.
Yes, he's
was
still
great.
horrifying. Like, I'm just waiting for him to be like, Xavier, your dream is foolish, and crush his head. And then he doesn't. And I'm like, this is weird. It's weird. I like it.
But he's also not Apocalypse anymore. He's the mutant formerly known as Apocalypse, but is now a symbol. Kind of
That's
like
true.
Prince in the 90s. Yeah. His name is now what his belt looks like.
That's true.
Like a wrestler.
Yeah. It's like a bracket with A in it, and then like two lines. It looks like his belt is what he wants people
Like
to.
your-
I don't know
like
how
your
you
name.
pronounce that. Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it, but that was an interesting choice.
Well, he tells those humans his name is Apocalypse, so I mean,
Well, for them, but for mutants, they can call him his belt name.
I'm assuming it's like because they have their own language, right? Maybe it's
Must
yeah,
be
it's
some
like
hieroglyphic
Krakoan.
thing.
It's
Yeah,
just
but,
Krakoan for Apocalypse, obviously, Al.
But yeah, we're doing 1 through 7, and the writer is still Hickman doing this, and the artist is actual. I can't pronounce his first name. Was it Leinil Yu? Leinil?
Leinil.
I don't
I
know if
always
it's
said Leinil when I
or
was a
Leinil.
kid, but
I
know
always
that's
say
wrong.
Leinil, but that might not be
Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
And he's
It's-
the one that did Secret Invasion, right?
He
Yes.
is.
I thought
and
he
he's
was
come
much
a long
better
way.
in this.
He's
yeah,
grown
this
a
was
lot.
so much better than Secret Invasion. It's
Agreed.
Yeah, and not
different
that Secret
atmosphere.
Invasion was like horrible, but it was like it's like he's toned down his style a little bit, and it's like a little more managed by him. And also,
Yeah,
I feel like his
Secret
panels were a
Invasion-
lot more dynamic, and there was a lot less just zooming in on someone's face, like, you know. And I was just like, because there was a lot of that in Secret Invasion. It'd be like, my head's here, and then suddenly it's here, and then now you're looking at my eyes, and I'm just like, dude, like, it's just lines of dialogue and just zooming in on the same picture of a person. It was weird.
Yeah,
But like
well-
this had a lot of more dynamic, you know, action going on, and it's still a lot of talking heads, like the one with that Xavier and Charles and Apocalypse going to the council meeting. Like there's still just a lot of talking heads, and he did great in that.
Yeah, he
What
was
else?
a Secret Invasion. It was much more like weirdly like stylized, but in a very raw, scratchy way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This just felt
Yeah,
much
he's
more
refined it a
polished.
lot. Yeah.
It just felt
Also,
more
I mean,
polished.
it's still him. You can tell it's him.
Oh,
Like it's
yeah,
not like it's not his style, but like, and he still draws the ridiculous giant guns. Like Cable had a giant gun still, like,
still
and it was
gets that in, yeah.
ridiculous,
He
and it
still
made no
gets that in.
sense. But you know, but it's fine
Yeah.
because it's Cable, and he's always had giant guns.
And
Yeah.
I mean, he's not responsible for this, but I thought like the color work in this is so much better than Secret Invasion.
Oh yeah, for
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
But-
They've come a long way
Yeah.
with coloring comics digitally since then, you know. For instance, just the ink lines on Cyclops' visor were constantly like silvered out, so it looked all chromy and silvery instead of like giant heavy black lines everywhere. But I mean, just little stuff like that I thought was really interesting. He also did some cool stuff with the way the optic blasts looked, like when he was like swirling his head. Oh, there's a image right down in the corner. But like where he like swirled his head around and there's like a little trail coming off. That looks really awesome. He did some cool stuff. I was appreciating his art a lot more since we had that look back on it in Secret Invasion.
He also,
Speaking
I
of
liked how he
Cyclops,
drew.
he's awesome in this, and I love it, and I love him, and I love it. And that's one of the main reasons I'm like, give me more of this, more of that, please.
Yeah.
I did like Cyclops' character in this a lot. He's a little bit. I mean, he's not really on the ruling council of Krakoa. He's still kind of like
No, he's like the
soldier
main
boy.
general.
Yeah, but he's definitely a more like mature figure than the kind of classic like team leader Cyclops. He is more, like you said, he's more of like
he's the
instead
captain
of the
commander.
whatever lieutenant team leader. He's more the general level. So it's still like a mature kind of look to Cyclops.
I like it.
thought,
He
you know,
still
I
has
liked
like a
that
young
character.
naivete to him too, because he seems like he's like there's that one conversation he has with Polaris about like oh, this is amazing and this is our home now and it's going to be awesome, and she's like, do you actually believe that? And he's like, every word, you know. And they have this long conversation about how he's totally drank the Kool-Aid and he's all in on whatever Xavier tells him.
Yeah.
And he's very like Xavier's in the room. He's like, sir, hi, did it work? You know, and there's like a little bit of like that, like, man, he could tell you to do anything and you do it, dude. Like, you know, a little bit of that, but like other than that, like he's amazing. Like he's out on a mission or he's figuring stuff out. Even the conversation he has with Kurt about what is this crucible thing? Should we be doing this? Like, what does this mean? You know, kind of thing. And I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. And at the end of the day, it's weird because Kurt didn't have any answers for him. And he's like, all I have is more questions. And at the end, he's like, well, damn, I guess all you really did have is more questions. And instead of it bothering him, like that would have bothered Cyclops in the past, I think. This Cyclops just went, huh, well, all right, I guess let's just take it how it goes. You know, like kind of like he was really weirdly zen. I don't know. I liked him a lot. Cyclops crushed it.
Yeah, he's very much all in. I mean, I think you saying drinking the Kool-Aid is a good expression for him. He's all in on Krakoa, and you know, he's a loyal soldier and will do whatever it takes to maintain their freedom.
And they hint at that with Powers of X or whatever, and like
yeah, I mean, he gives his literally gives his life for it. In House of X,
but I mean, before when Xavier's like, Scott, I need you to do something, he's like, you need me to do it, I'm doing it. Like that was like the line or something like that. You know, it's just like, oh yeah, you do it. You want me to do it? I'm doing it. Done. Consider it done, kind of thing. And I'm like, damn, dude. Like at least that's
but it's also, but it's very much though, like it feels like a more kind of mature attitude from him because it's less of like it's less of like Professor X is my teacher, so of course I'll do what he wants. But it's more of like I know what my role is. I know what I can control and what I can't.
Yes.
And you know,
like I said, he's got a little Zen.
A very Buddhist sort of like what I can control are these factors, and the rest I'll leave up to my betters type of thing.
Yeah, and there's even like there's a few conversations here or there about like just living on the island and what it's like. And he has his home on the moon or whatever, but you know, it's just a doorway away. But the reason it's not like I'm safer up here or anything. He's just like, I just wanted a nice view, but also I can, so why not? But also he's just like enjoying it because he knows it could get taken away at any time. So he's just like, whatever, I'm just going to enjoy this while I have it, you know? And he offers that advice to several people throughout the 7 issues. And I'm like, I really like this Cyclops. So he's crushing it.
Going back to the Kool-Aid point though, like the one thing that I struggled with, and it kind of dissipates as the books go on, but at first, I was very much weirded out by the dynamics of the Summers family, and it felt almost like something had altered their personalities. You know, it just, as Al said, like this Cyclops is like a much mature, and as you said, more Zen. I mean, I guess it's because he's got what he wants. But I remember when I first started reading this, I was like, there's got to be something going on with either Krakoa's influencing the mutants' minds. Because now it's like Jean and Cyclops and Wolverine live on the moon.
They're in a throuple,
together,
right? Yeah,
and then you find out that they're like, I don't know if it's like defined as a throuple, but it's pretty clear that they're all.
It seems. I think in like issue 6 or 7, Cyclops and Wolverine have a recliner chair discussion.
Yes,
and I love that. It very much seemed like Cyclops is like, Jean and I are going to go on a fuck vacay. You're coming too.
Did you want to come? So he didn't say Jean. He said, I'm taking the kids. I mean, I think he mentioned Jeannie, but like, he was just like, the family's going down. Would you like to come? As in, we consider you part of the family.
Yeah, it seems pretty strongly hinted that like they're in a.
I don't know if they are. I feel like it's just Jean is in an open relationship with them both.
But why does Wolverine? I mean, I guess that's where I'm kind of confused. Like, why does Wolverine live with the Summers family? Like, it's one thing to be part of, you know,
because they're embracing it, sort of. I guess I don't know.
But then it was also
he's not Wolverine. X-23 is Wolverine.
That's true.
Yeah, so he's just Logan. No,
but then like Rachel, it was always my understanding that Rachel Gray kind of freaked out Scott and Jean because she's not really their daughter, and then like Kid Cable, I don't even know where to start with that. I'm not exactly sure.
I don't know who Kid Cable is. Is that Cable or is that Nate from the Age of Apocalypse? I was going to ask.
No, it's not Nate. It's just
it's just Kid Cable.
It's just young Cable, like literally.
Yes.
Back when the comics were like not great.
Yeah.
They bring Cyclops back to life.
You mean all time?
No, like
You mean like the past 40 years, or what do you mean?
Gosh,
well, I mean, Morrison's
stop it.
run was great.
Okay.
No, Kid Cable shows up, kills old Cable, and then brings
Really?
Cyclops back to life. And they don't really explain why, because it's like time travel shenanigans.
Really?
But then it's also like Kid Cable seems like he should be at least 15 years old, if not older.
He acts
and I feel
very
like
young.
he acts like he's like a toddler.
No, well,
it's
first of all, he's definitely on the autism spectrum. Like when he
issue
interacts
2,
with
it's
that
called The
Araco
Other
summoner,
Island, and Scott hangs out with his kids, and they go and do a thing while Krakoa is moving towards Araka.
Weird there. He has he's got.
Yeah, I literally wrote, "Is Nate an idiot?" But I guess he's Cable. I didn't know. I was like, I don't understand.
So it kind of there was something about also the art.
Cable.
There's a scene where it's the white cat lady from the Starjammers is talking to Rachel about her costume having spikes on it, and Rachel's expression is just like unblinking, staring forward. It reminded me of that Twilight Zone episode that was in the movie with the little boy who could
the cornfield. He sends you to the cornfield.
He could send you to the cornfield. I was like, is something like that going on? Is like someone control because then you had Vulcan and Havoc, and Vulcan was also like he seemed to be like a little kid.
Yeah, very
which I loved him. But it was also like there's something weird going on with him. Everything was weird
maybe
about
it's
it.
just how Hickman's trying to write them as different people. Maybe, and that's he's just like trying to really. Maybe he's really overplaying like their different personalities to kind of get them across. Is like how he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed it was that the one thing that crossed my mind, and I don't know because Patrick, you've read way more of this, but I was just thinking like, is Professor X doing more to people than he's saying?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when they're brought back to life, I was like, are they doing something?
In fact, it probably is.
Yeah.
But also
even if
the
it
whole
wasn't
idea,
yet, it'll be like 2 years from now. They'll be like, "Oh, don't you guys know that was all Xavier messing with your heads?"
Well, that's the thing because Charles. But that's the thing because like throughout X-Men history, Charles has done such fucked up shit.
Yeah.
That and especially like now we have this island where Apocalypse and Sinister and Magneto are basically like subservient to X's will as like the beacon of mutant kind, and that seems suspicious to me. But it seems like that isn't what was going on.
I have to pull this up. Keep going. This is Professor X related, but
yeah.
Okay,
well, I just all of that
when
was
Mystique is arguing with him about bringing back Destiny, and it's not just him; it's Magneto as well. But she's like. Basically, she wants Destiny brought back to life, and they're like, "Well, why didn't you kill Nimrod when you had a chance, or the woman making Nimrod, or whatever?" And she's like, "Well, maybe I wanted something else." And they're having this conversation, and it's finally she's just like, "I don't care, bring her back." And he's like, "Raven, after all this time, after all the years of you stabbing your own kind in the back just to get what you want, after all that, do you really think we can trust you?" And I just wanted to be like, "What about you, bro? How many times have you betrayed them?"
Also, I mean, what Charles and Magneto were doing to her was pretty fucked up. Like, they're basically blackmailing her with the life of her lover into murdering someone that she isn't doing. But like, it's pretty dark.
Not only that, but they kept like moving the goalpost for her. Every time she'd do something for them, they'd be like, "Oh, well, you didn't do it perfectly, so we're going to make you do this."
So why didn't you do that one? If you saw it needed to be done, she literally says, "They're like, hey, why didn't you kill that woman?" And she's like, because we have a law that says not to kill people." And they're like, "That's not the reason. What's the real reason?" Because they know what the answer is. But at the same time, you're like, yeah, but she's not wrong about the first part. Even if that wasn't her reason. And she had ulterior motives for not killing the woman, because obviously she did. But like, that's still a rule that you guys made up, not to kill humans. So it's like, why are you questioning her on this? Like,
right?
The fuck.
I mean, that's another thing I liked about. I mean, I love Destiny. I didn't know much about her at all because she's been dead for most of the time in reading X-Men comics, and then Mystique. She was always kind of like stereotypical femme fatale. She was kind of a backstabber. You never really knew whose side she was on. She was always only on her own side. She was always 10 steps ahead. So it was interesting to see her.
It's because she can shapeshift.
The point here is though that like it's so hypocritical for Charles to say something like that, because like not just him, man. Like there's so much X-Men history that like all of them have betrayed each other at some point in time, practically.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Cyclops has gone bad.
Yeah.
Phoenix has gone bad. Like, everyone's got, like...
I mean, so for Magneto to criticize anyone is like he
didn't say anything, honestly. He just kept his mouth shut and said, "Do what we ask you to. Shut up." You know, kind of thing. He didn't really like go into the conversation, but Xavier was just like, "What about this?" And that's what I'm like, "You're a fucking piece of shit."
Right. Well, anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but to that point about the weirdness of the Summers family, my mind did go there to that idea of like maybe it's going to come out in 50 issues that, you know, Xavier with his cute little Cerebro helmet was doing way more than
it was just odd too. Like
he was letting on. But.
With the Summers thing, there's a scene where Kid Cable is trading guns with someone from the Starjammers, and he's like, "Oh, I want this gun," and he's like, "Mom, can I trade guns with Raza?" And Jean is like, "Not until you set the table." And I'm like, Jean, it's Kid Cable, so it's like. It's not even Jean's kid. It's Madeline Pryor's kid, right? And I know Jean kind of like raised him or whatever.
Cyclops and Jean went into the future and had a kid, and it wasn't like their bodies. It was like that's who Cable.
No,
is. So
it's biologically Madeline Pryor's kid that they sent into the future, and then Jean is the one that like raised him because Madeline was dead. But like biologically,
Cable is biologically Madeline's kid. Yeah.
Kid.
I'm remember this. So there's a specific comic, and fuck if I can remember the name of this, but Cyclops and Jean go into the future into like separate bodies that like mimic kind of what they looked like or whatever. You know, like their bodies resembled who they are in the past. So basically they go into the future, but it's just their consciousness or something. And then so I guess they raise him. Maybe he was born already. Yeah, you're right.
It was just all very, because I think only like I don't know how much time is taking place, but I think it's only been like a month or so. They say something about a month in the issue with Magneto, Apocalypse, and Xavier going to the diplomatic summit. So it just seemed like a lot of forced bonding had happened, like off panel. So anyway,
I mean,
that's my last comment.
Basically, is Jean, you know, right?
Yeah, they're the same biologically. They're the same, but
but one of them uses goblins and another one is a space.
Yeah, but if you like raised a kid that was like your biological, not your technically biological son, but it's basically your son. Like, wouldn't you just feel like it's your son?
Yes.
At that point?
All of this is nonsense, guys. Can we start like Cyclops' dad is a space pirate?
Yeah.
Like, start there. That makes no sense. So,
but that's not new to this run. Like, that's
no. But I just mean X-Men. I just mean X-Men relationships and lore is bonkers anyway. Like, Cyclops' dad is a human.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So is it that weird that Jean's acting like Cable's her son? I don't think so. I think it's pretty plausible.
None of this
in a household where she fucks Wolverine one night and the next night she's fucking Scott. I think it's fine. You know.
That too, like the fact that
pretend to have a child, I don't care.
The fact that I don't know, Rachel really throws me off. Like, why is she up there with them? It makes no sense. Like, why would she be up there?
I don't know.
Rachel and Scott seem to get along.
I thought Rachel fucking
because Cyclops is Zen now, so he gets along with everybody.
Anyway, there was just something about the artwork and the dialogue with the Summers family, especially in that first scene where they're doing the barbecue. Outside of the Wolverine Vulcan conversation about medium rare and rare steaks, everything was really kind of low-key disturbing to me.
Yeah, but you're fine with the steak conversation.
Well, I just really liked Vulcan's. I liked Vulcan's. He's like, "What? You expect the fire not to be fire?" He's pretty great.
Well, that's another. So this, I only really noticed this on the first issue. They toned it way down after, but the dialogue in the first issue felt strange. It was very like everyone seemed to be this like warrior poet out of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms or something. It was like very elevated. Poetic, a third person POV of their own life dialogue. It felt really weird. The successive issues really toned that down, but the first one was it just felt strange. Like basically everybody was monologuing to the reader instead of talking to each other throughout that whole issue. And it was sort of strange.
The way Hickman wrote it, though. I mean, the style.
No, well, yeah, but
if you can get past that, I mean, like, I still enjoyed it.
But it also, they really stopped it. Like, after issue 1, they really kind of toned that down. But
Well, maybe he was
why they decided,
getting you into it, sort of. But I think, which is funny because I mean, we kind of talked about this with House of X, but like, I feel like that was what that was. Like that was set up for all of this, sort of, in a way.
Yeah.
So it's like it felt a little weird that we were getting even more set up within the X-Men book. Although he's, like I said, he's clearly setting up multiple story arcs to come. So I mean, I get it, because like every issue is kind of like hopping to a new issue or problem.
Yes.
And there's not like, this arc isn't really like a solid arc of like, they find this bad guy and they defeat that bad guy over 4 issues.
Right.
This is just like every issue is like hitting a different thing, which I found kind of fun. But like,
I did too.
That's what I was going to ask you, Patty. Is that, I enjoyed that too. But does that pay off by the end? Like, do we see all of these like happen?
I think like House of X kind of established the like world of Krakoa, and then I kind of felt like this X-Men book kind of established who the new villains were going to be, because like most X-Men villains are evil mutants who are now on their team. So who are they fighting against? Because issue 1, it kind of revisits Orcus, and then issue 2, Araco mutant shows up. Then Horticulture shows up in issue 3. Issue 4 is just kind of their like conflict with humans in general. Issue 5 is when the Children of the Vault show up. Issue 6 is with Mystique and Destiny, and they kind of do like kind of subterfuge type stuff.
Yeah.
But
and then 7 was the Crucible one. Yeah.
7 was the Crucible. The Araco stuff is already like that pays off immediately, like right after, like a few issues after we stopped reading, they have the big clash with them. Horticulture, I don't really remember where they come back into play. I know they do, but I don't remember what the big
I don't really see that
about.
being like a big one though. Like that seemed like it was going to be like a relatively. It just seemed like another aspect of humanity that they're like, oh, this is new, but we also have to deal with it, and also they can hack our gateway things, so that's a problem. But other than that, like it didn't seem like a huge deal.
Yeah. But, so my take on that is the opposite. I hated the structure that it was like. I much prefer. Earlier when we talked about New X-Men, one of the things that we discussed as a positive there was the focus on a smaller team and coherent, fixed narratives that have like a through line. And that was absent here. This was just a giant cast. Every issue was a new problem, a new thing, and then read about it next time. And I really hate that construct for comics. Like it's such a tease, and I much prefer just self-contained stories that are, 7 issues of like,
well, that's kind of what I was asking. So did that
go through it?
Like,
I just didn't like this.
You were saying how the Araco story like pays off. Araco, sorry. Yeah. Pays off like relatively quickly after this. So like, was that like a 3 or 4 issues in a row that they dealt with the island thing?
Well, no, they had like a big crossover called X.
So it was like all of the books,
like
sort of.
Okay. No, it was like a side like mini-series thing that kind of got introduced. Okay. The first like 25 issues, I think, of this X-Men run are kind of keep this format, and they revisit the people that went in the vault and all the stuff, and they go back and forth. And then after this, the new like when
I'm not really against that. Again. And even just reading the first 7, I was like, now I want to read more. Versus like if I just read a single arc, I would have been like, that was fun.
But so I want to ask you guys, because when we did Secret Invasion, you had the opposite reaction to the same thing that Secret Invasion was doing.
That's a totally different thing, Secret Invasion.
It was the same thing. It was a comic that said, read me, but don't really, and then buy these 12 other comics that actually tell you what's going on.
That's not what happens at all, though. If you kept reading that X-Men run, it kind of revisits a lot of this stuff. It's basically putting, seeds in the ground for.
That's not every other reference in these 7 issues was what the Marauders were doing, what the Space New Mutants were doing. It was all references to go buy these comics.
When did they talk about the Marauders? I don't even remember that.
It's like every other issue they mentioned, Kitty's off doing this, or like
I don't remember when you said you liked Kitty
in space.
I don't remember them talking about any of that in these 7 issues.
Well, they say like, they
reference
like when
them
specifically when Scott's hanging out with his kids and they're going to the island. He's like, well, I wish we had Doug, but we don't because he went on vacation. He's like, that's a problem. We have to, but that's it. Like that's okay.
Yeah, but what do you mean that's it? That's saying go buy New Mutants to find out what Doug's doing.
But you don't. If you want to know what Doug's doing,
you don't have to read that to understand the book. They're just like, hey, Doug's not here right now.
I hate everything about this construct of this comic. It's sprawling. It's needlessly complex. It requires you to buy other titles to give Marvel more money to get the no payoff.
I don't think it does.
Stories
I don't think it requires it.
I hated everything about this comic. It was dog shit.
I think I was so excited about.
We already sort of talked about one. All right, sorry.
Well, I think if you do, I mean, to Al's point, like I think he obviously didn't really. I mean, I had already had like a bunch of the issues out, right? So I binged a bunch of stuff, and like the first 7 issues of this, I was very curious to know, like, oh, who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that guy? You know, I liked it when they would throw. It's like, oh shit, there's Darwin. What the fuck has that guy been up to for the last like 10 years? Yeah. And then there's Sync. I didn't know anything about Sync. Like Sync is like one of my favorite X-Men now. It's I really enjoyed seeing what everyone was up to and what their roles were inside of this
agree. In the new society. So, yes.
Yeah, it was
I agree. Fun. I was excited for that. So a weird thing with the way I read it, because it's in trade on Comixology, it was like, you know, free with Comixology Unlimited. So I downloaded like 10 volumes, but it was because each issue, like all the number 1s were volume 1. It wasn't like X-Men 1 through 7. So like I had to get volume 2 to read issue 2 of X-Men and so on.
That's annoying.
But I only read the X-Men issues because I didn't have a lot of time. But I totally wanted to go back and read all the number 1s and all the number 2s and all the number 3. Like as I was reading along, I was like, oh, I'm missing out on some stuff that happened there. I can't wait to read that. You know, and like I'm excited to go back and read the rest of the volumes in full, you know, before I move on to like volume 8, which is where I'm at technically, because you know we read 7. But like I'm definitely gonna go back and read all the 1s and 2s and 3s to catch up to 7, so I can go on forward. But
yeah,
I mean,
I just
1 because I have them, but 2 because it looks fun. I don't know how. To my recollection, I really liked Marauders. I liked Excalibur, but I sort of wanted it to be more than it was. I think, like it started slow, sort of. I don't really remember.
Excalibur was bonkers. That was bonkers. So Psylocke, who's not Psylocke anymore, is now Captain Britain because the real Captain Britain is Morgan Le Fay's Black Knight. It was bonkers.
Yeah,
and I don't know why I have to spend $4.99 a month to read that when it has nothing to do with what's going on in Krakoa.
Well, you didn't,
and the rest of mutant kind. I'm so out on all of this whole.
You can spend $4.99 a month on Comixology Unlimited and then read all of them.
Marauders was good.
On this whole thing. Let's talk about issue 1. Let's just talk about issue 1.
Okay,
issue 1. Cyclops and Magneto and Storm and Polaris go down to free some mutant children, and also a Sentinel baby lady, and then whatever she is, post-human, and then there's a little touch in on, like, again, we talked about the Summers household already, but then there's a little brief check-in with the Orcus Forge by the Sun, and they mentioned the mutant attack and how the Mother Mold had dropped in, and kind of thing, and they're burying bodies, but there's a hint that they're still going to build Nimrod or whatever, and I think that's the big part there. But I just wrote, is Nimrod her husband? I'm so confused because she's like, I know how to bring him back, and she has like a glowing pink gem, and I was like, and Nimrod has that glowing pink gem in the center of his chest. I'm like, wait,
maybe they use some of the husband's like saved brainwaves to be the. I mean, this is
he comes back for 2 seconds, and then whatever he has to do something like to fight the X-Men, and it like wipes out his memory again, and it just goes back to being regular Nimrod. So it was like,
all right, got it.
Yeah.
I like the Orcus Forge stuff though in general. I think it's a really cool concept. I like how they have like they touch back in with them a little later on in one of the issues randomly, and it's like they have mining facilities on like Mercury and shit, like or whatever. And then I was just like, oh, and they're like mining heavy metals to make Sentinels and stuff, and I was like, that's really interesting that they're like.
Well, I like that too.
Yeah,
because one thing about sci-fi is usually about outer space. Very little of it usually takes place on like Venus, Mercury, the sun. Closer to the sun. So it's kind of interesting to see like all this kind of.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Activity
I liked it.
Closer planets to the sun is kind of interesting.
Yeah. And then like utilize them in the way that they're utilizing them was kind of interesting to me. I also like the weird blind
to make
main bad guy.
Robots. You think that's an interesting use, Joe? So you're against mutants?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Are you kidding? I'm a
You
human.
think it's an interesting
Get rid of
use
them
of
all.
Mercury's resources to build killer
Get
robots?
rid of them
They are
all.
on the record.
They
You're
are
on the record.
dangerous.
They
If
are
there's even a
dangerous.
1% chance. Wait, is that's something Zack Snyder said?
Okay. Joe Trask, everybody. Am I right? The Trask family.
Nonsense. I love Scott. I'm a Summers brother all the way. Yeah, so issue 2, The Other Island.
Issue 2.
This was
is
also
when
bonkers.
Oh wait, I did have one last thing about
Another
issue 1.
bonkers
I really
plot to
loved that
bring
when they got back from their mission in issue 1, all the kids ran up to the Magneto and they're like, "Magneto's back!" Like they're all just excited to see him, and I was just like, I don't know why I love that so much. And he's just like, "Yes, I am back. I fight for you, and I'm amazing." And I'm just like the way everything that was coming out of his mouth. I'm just like, I love this.
Well, that's what I mean. That
I
was
love
issue
Magneto,
1 was
the weird good
very.
guy.
Issue 1 was very like classical epic warrior poet of like.
It was awesome.
Children of Krakoa, I am here, you know.
Yeah, I did like
how Scott just like walked by quietly and they all like flocked to Magneto like he wasn't there, and I was like, I sort of love that for some reason. Like,
well, did you see? I mean, Magneto looks good.
Well, he also looks
good in that white cape.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you kidding? He's a hot man.
I did love Polaris throughout this run. I liked how
she was
it went from all that, and the next thing she's like, he's a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's like, does he make you call him father? Maybe.
Well, you all are bigger X-Men readers than I am. So is she's Magneto's actual daughter, or what, or a clone, or what is her relationship to
his actual daughter? I'm not really sure when that was revealed, but yeah, they're biologically related. Yes, as opposed to the Pretender, who's not his real daughter.
I also liked the diagram of Scott's house or the Summers household, and it showed where all the bedrooms were. And like, for some reason, it just made me laugh that like they went out of their way to be like, this is this person's room and this is this person's room, and there was like an empty room next to, like, Havoc and Vulcan like sleep in rooms right next to each other, and then Nate or Cable and Rachel have a room between them for no reason.
Yeah,
I was just like little things like that. I'm like, so you're family, but not quite. I don't want to live right next to my brother. I'll live close to him.
And then Jean was in the middle of Scott.
But there was adjoining doors.
Little doors. Yeah.
I bet she wants to be in the middle of Scott and Wolverine.
I mean, she's got to be. Of course she does.
Yeah. Seems like they're all down for it.
I would have bet. I kind of felt like Wolverine would be in the middle. In that, he seems like more the middle.
I mean, that's what you've been wanting this entire time, apparently. You've brought it up many times.
If I was with Jean and Scott, I'd love to be the middle. That's all.
Okay.
Whether I'm vicariously living through Wolverine or not, I would want to be in the middle.
Mind any of those situations.
Between those two, I'd be in the middle.
Suffocate you. How heavy is he? He's got to weigh like
yeah, he's super heavy.
Oh yeah, because he's metal. Yeah, well,
his bones are heavy.
Well, you can be like side by side, right? You know,
that's true.
You can be.
That's true. Yeah.
Also, Jean has telekinetic power, so she could telekinetically lift some of the weight off, of Scott, because Scott would be the bottom, right? So she'd have to lift Wolverine off of Scott.
Scott's
and then
underneath everything.
Coming in. She's pegging Wolvie probably telekinetically. That's how I think that would probably the best way for that to work is that. I think it would be that way.
Sure.
Issue 2. Arakko. So Krakoa has a twin brother, and it's an evil twin.
Yeah.
And it's Arakko.
Evil per se.
It's the other island.
It's the other island that they teased it in House of X Powers of 10 that originally Krakoa was a larger island called Okara. I really hated that they used like this. What is that called when you use the same letters to spell different words?
Oh,
Krakoa, Arakko, and Okara.
I don't know. It's not an anagram. Is it anagram?
Anagram, maybe.
Anagram. That might be it. I think that's
so. Okara was one island full of mutants, and these demons from their dimension cut it in two. But since they're a living island, they turned into two separate entities. And then Arakko went through the gate with all of Apocalypse's kids and they've been over there for like 1,000 years fighting these demons, like in a never-ending war.
Did you say demons? So you said demons from another dimension, right?
Yeah, like limbo or something. Not limbo, but like it's called a menth. I think Hickman really wants to be like a
so Apocalypse is his actual children are in this other dimension fighting demons.
Well,
yeah,
they're not his kids.
No, it's his wife.
Well, they might have been back then, were they?
Well, yeah, there's
Well, I'm just saying, like, his 4 horsemen now aren't, like, he calls them his children, but they're not literally.
No, but I think
like Archangel's death is not actually his child.
No, but I'm asking, I think it is his actual biological.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, because he says, "Whose child are you?" And the kid says, "War," and he's like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And I'm like, "Well, is that his actual daughter, or like I don't know."
I think this one is right.
Yeah, so the original War, yeah. So that's like his actual biological grandchild, the white summoner that comes in on this issue. Who I really love that character design, and I like the way they drew him and all that stuff.
Yu was doing a lot of good work in this run.
But it's very like Naruto and Spirit Fox form, kind of like an ethereal look with tattoos.
Yeah, there's like mist coming off of them. So yeah, Cyclops, Rachel, and Kid Cable confront this this other mutant that doesn't speak their language, and Cable thinks it's a good idea to give him a grenade, which made. And if I was Rachel or Cyclops, I'd be like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing?"
They just sat back and watched him. Like he's like, "I got
they
this.
did.
People love
they
me."
sat back and watched it, but then they did afterwards say, like, "Why?
What did you give them?" And he's like, "Oh, a grenade." Why would you give?
I mean, Rachel has telekinesis. She could have pulled that grenade out of the guy's hand.
Also, it's so insane. So Apocalypse's grandbaby. Or a great-great-grandbaby, I don't know. Press the thermal detonator grenade thing, and it blows up. And it blows them up too, so they go flying. And then two, I'm just like, after the whole fight happens, he's like, "You shouldn't have done that." And they start fighting, and he summons demons and shit. And there's a big fight happening, and the whole fight gets resolved by young Cable just going like, "Hey, I've made mistakes. Can we all just move on? I did not mean to do that." And he's like, "You gave." It's like, yeah, but you didn't have to turn it on, and I'm just like, that was really, really.
But what
stupid.
else would
the whole fucking thing?
Yeah, but also, I mean, Joe, an apology goes a long way. I think showing real contrition.
That's true. Yeah, and he was a good way to seemed sincere.
Yeah,
and then it's so fun. He also even has a line where young Cable says something like, I don't know what I was expecting to happen there, but for some reason that wasn't it, or something like that. And I was just like, "You're an idiot. You have
well, I think the reason why the summoner stopped fighting them is he was like, obviously this person has a learning disability, and I understand that like it was a mistake to give me a grenade."
I love how they're speaking whatever Krakoan or English or whatever it is, and I liked the difference in language. That was interesting. Like they're like, "It sounds like singing," and then he's like, "You're making weird grunting noises. Are something wrong with you?" or something like that. Like just the differences in how the languages are now. And I was like, I actually kind of like that.
I did like
they didn't like belabor it and hammer it over your head,
Yeah.
With Apocalypse hugging his grandkid.
No, not that part. When the summoner walks off, they're like, "Well, so they fight and they come to like an understanding, and then the summoner walks away, and he's like, "Well, this is my island as well now, so I live here too." And he's like, "Well," and then he kind of alludes to Apocalypse, but it was just kind of creepy how this powerful mutant shows up and is now living.
But also
with
the
you.
island's fuck.
The island's fuck. I guess that's what happened. I don't know. But yeah, when you see it,
they join. It's kind of like an Avatar,
the tentacle porn,
James Cameron Avatar, where they have the little tendril that touch.
I mean, they're living creatures. They definitely had sex. Yeah. I'm just.
Can we talk about Apocalypse for a second? Because
sure loved him.
This is another one where we just diverge on our.
Loved him all the way.
Well, I mean, my memory of Apocalypse is, Age of Apocalypse, the cartoon show. Like he was legit. He was like a larger than life, like the biggest villain the X-Men had.
Yeah.
And to see him be like Charles and Magneto's little bitch, like in a suit, following them around Davos is like emasculating. I don't like this
in my head. in my head at that table, like every time he was talking, it was the voice from the cartoon, and it's really funny
Yeah.
if you read it that way.
Yeah, you read his dialogue
It's
any
really
way.
entertaining if you read his dialogue in your head as the voice from the cartoon. His
but I
fork
didn't-
is too
Yeah,
small.
but I didn't like this.
Like,
I didn't
I
like
loved
this
it.
version of him. I thought it completely like depowered him of all. I don't know, but my image of him is like he's so much more than like Magneto and Charles. He was like the all-time immortal villain, and now he's just their little bitch. He's like number 3 on the call sheet.
But I got the impression that
he's one of the Silent Council, like one of the main table guys.
Oh, come on. That council is not a round table. Charles and Mags are running that shit. Like they are running circles around.
I mean, there's a lot of retconning to his character and history. I agree, because like if he's from Krakoa and his family's in this other dimension, and like during the Age of Apocalypse storyline, you would have thought he would have probably tried to do something about that. So you do have to kind of like take a lot of it.
They're not strong.
Well, also, Age of Apocalypse technically hasn't happened. Like it's not real, right?
That's
so
true.
It didn't happen in this time. So you can't really use that. But I still, as a general comic reader, as a kid, I always thought of him as like this. Even compared to Magneto, like as powerful as Magneto was, to me, Apocalypse he was the biggest.
Yeah, he was more terrifying than Magneto.
There was a story where Cyclops and Apocalypse like melded.
Yeah.
And when they separated, like Cyclops was like darker and more evil or whatever, and like a little messed up from it. But I think Apocalypse took away
he was goth Cyclops.
Some good guyness. You know?
That's possible.
Maybe. But also, did you ever watch the early 2000s X-Men Evolution?
Yeah.
I dabbled in everything that came after the original old one, but I never watched
in that version, Apocalypse enthralled Charles and Magneto into being his horsemen. So even there, it's like he's so much stronger than these other mutants.
He says something though in House of X when he first shows up.
Not strong.
Yeah, I think he's kind of just curious because they've gotten so far with this, right? This has been Charles and Magneto's
I think it's almost like curiosity is a good.
Well, I think he's kind
descriptor.
of just and he is just kind of like seeing what's up.
I just didn't. I thought it was another weird character turn. This is like in Naruto where Orochimaru is somehow redeemed. But Mr. Sinister, how is he, like that dude is fucked up. Like he's done fucked up shit.
They made a mistake.
And he's just part of the club. He's fine. Now he's funny. Now he's comic relief with Bar Sinister. And that's it. Like this is crazy to me that he.
No, that was a big mistake. That's what kind of like way later. There's a whole storyline called The Sins of Sinister, and he does some stuff that pretty much is what brings about the end of Krakoa.
Well, I buy that.
See,
to me, it's like a Naruto.
I think that's the point, though. You throw all these characters together, it's gonna boil over, and I feel like Apocalypse is one of the ones that I'm kind of being like, it's probably gonna be something with that guy. Like I don't. If anyone's gonna start being like, and I've created my own faction, and let's all fight. Like it's gonna be.
I don't know, but Sinister especially. Just again, it's like Naruto and inexplicably redeeming Orochimaru, who is irredeemable. Yeah. I felt this with Sinister. Like, what are we doing?
The Sinister thing, I can get the Apocalypse thing. I think this is in keeping with his character. I mean, like, he doesn't come out to play all the time. So clearly he's biding his time and doing things in the meantime. And this is just one of those times, I feel like, when Apocalypse is like, all right, well, let's see where this goes. And I'll be doing my own shit in the background. And when I don't know. When it's time, it's time. That's what I see Apocalypse doing in this.
I definitely got the feeling that he's subbing like Charles and Mags. Like, he's not the dom in that relationship.
I kind of feel like he is... To draw a parallel to Akira, he is the Colonel, and Magneto and Professor X are Kaneda and K. Like starting a new, like he's been doing this forever. He specifically says, "Why would I fight against this?" in House of X. Like this is what I've been trying to do.
Yeah, for like thousands of years. You guys are taking charge over the humans. This is what I want to do.
You guys are already doing it pretty well. I'm just gonna hang out and. If y'all need me, I'm here.
So another question. In mainstream continuity, Is Apocalypse was before Krakoa? Like, was he just chilling on Earth?
Honestly, I have no fucking idea.
That's the point. Like, we don't really see it. You don't know what Apocalypse does in his downtime. Right. So maybe this is it
too. Like his
like, I don't think it's that weird.
All the mutants that are like fighting the demons, like I guess they're just all immortal. Like they're all really they've been doing this.
Well, if they're his children, well, he's immortal. So I guess if they're his direct children, maybe they're immortal. I don't know.
But yeah,
issue 3.
I think there's a lot of
issue 3 yet.
Yeah.
Let's
issue 3. No. We are introduced to horticulture, which is fun. They were fun. I enjoyed them.
Yeah, they're fun.
Fun fact: apparently, they're based off of Hickman's grandmothers.
Really?
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So I don't think the murderous like biologist part. I mean, there's that one. Not. They're kind of terrifying, though. I mean, it's.
I mean, I find this goes back because this happens in some horror movies too, but like dangerous old people, I find horrifying.
Me too.
They're profoundly creepy. You know, like old people who are threatening I find them profound because you don't know.
Also, there's a sense of
when they're not strong. So
there's that, but also that with age comes this like they've got nothing left to lose kind of thing. There's like a feeling of like, oh, they're gonna fuck you up because they don't have a lot of time to achieve what they're trying to achieve. Even it wasn't said, but you know, like it's just there in the fact that they're old. But
to me,
it's also like the fact it's just like the fact they wouldn't swear. Like it's,
I don't know.
Yeah. They're disarming, which means there's something ominous for them to come into the most powerful country, and they're old women, and like, but they take down Cyclops and Sebastian Shaw, and to the point where Emma just doesn't even want to engage with them. She just I think because at first I was like, why doesn't Emma go after them? And she's like, well, my mental powers don't work on them. I just saw them take away either Sebastian Shaw's powers or Cyclops.
I think she made the right call. She made the right call.
Yeah, she was like, I'm just
diamond up and stand back.
Protecting myself and just gonna stand here while you.
I did like at a certain point. I think they call Emma a slut, and like her expression is my favorite word in the book.
With a serious P-word problem.
Well, they call her a tart, which I thought was funny.
Yeah,
because that's a very old-timey way of calling something.
So this issue opens with Jean and Emma like sparring a little bit at the council meeting, and I'm just
I enjoyed that.
Are they?
No,
I liked it. But are they like
I did?
Are they enemies or do they like each other now? I can't tell. Like
they
Jean is also pegging Emma. Jean
no
also
fucking
pegs
way.
Emma.
Emma is not a part of that. There's no way. But I do like that because
I wanted to bring it up. I didn't like it because it went on too long. You know, it's usually it should be like barb, move on. This was barb for like 2 full pages of back and forth.
And then at the end, they're like,
was not natural.
Let's get drinks. And she's like, you're buying. And then she's like, I always do because she's rich. And I was just like, and I'm like, even that at the end, I'm like, wait, do they like hanging out with each other?
Well, keep in mind though, this is the first time really outside of that like very brief moment of House of X where they like gave each other a beer. Mm-hmm. We have not seen these two women interact since Jean obliterated Emma's mind in New X-Men. Like I've been waiting for them to have any type of interaction. So the fact that they're just, I think it's still much like a rivalry, and but I think
definitely,
I think they're all past. They're past the whole love triangle thing, and they're, I think there's a mutual respect, but I wouldn't think they're like besties or anything.
No, but I didn't like their back and forth because the way it was written, it should just be like attack, riposte, we're done, move on. And this was it was like 3 steps too many of just, not real conversation, but just like digging at each other.
Yeah. They could have ended it when
I didn't like that.
When Jean says, I love those shoes, and Emma says, I think they're a couple of sizes too small for you. They could have ended it there probably, but yeah.
I did like how Emma was just like, that's why I love you, Scott, later on. Like just little, like not even like not poking at him even, just like genuine, like, I still love you, just throwing that out there, moving on, kind of thing. And I feel like Emma's the kind of person who would like casually mention that and not really make it a thing, but like, it was interesting.
I feel like she's moved on.
That up.
I feel like
she has, but in the way. But I think it's just like, oh, well, I lost that one. Moving on.
Yeah,
but she still has the feelings. I think.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I think she's moved on, but it's pretty clear that he chose Jean. So we know the answer now to when
I disagree.
Tell,
so he chose Jean in lowercase and Logan uppercase. Let's be honest.
Okay. I mean, the rooms are separated by Jean, so
it's
I think Jean was the excuse for Logan and Scott to get to each other.
They do share some morning times together in this.
Yeah, they drink their coffee together.
I'm just saying, like,
Look,
you don't see Jean and Scott hanging out almost at all, or Jean and Logan hanging out almost at all. You see a lot of Logan and Scott hanging out.
A lot more Logan and Scott being together.
That is true.
Sony, horticulture. Get it?
Yeah, that was another terrible.
Yeah,
that was another just terrible line. Like, really?
I enjoyed that beat though because it sounds exactly the same. So the fact that she's like, no, it's horticulture.
Yeah,
Shaw's like, horticulture,
and he's like, no, we get what you're doing, you dick. And then they beat the shit out of her.
Cool joke.
I wrote Cyclops kicks old ladies' asses. I mean, yeah, that was pretty cool.
Well, so back to the art for a second though. I did want to say I liked how you drew like the geometry of his optic blasts, like when he's slamming it off of their ship. Back onto them and stuff. Like I thought he did a good job of sort of the.
There's a couple of those. There's a couple of really cool optic blast moments. Again, Cyclops does a lot of cool shit in this, I guess, arc or this initial run on the books. But like, man, I really enjoyed use of like how that looked and like what was going on. And there's like a fill-in artist for one of the issues, I think, or maybe two, but mostly it was him, and he looked awesome. He also did a little thing, especially a lot in the episode or the issue where he was talking to Kurt. I guess the issue 7, but there was a lot of like a little bit of a glow in the center of his beam, and it just kind of looked like a center eye. And I was like, I kind of like that, just like little things. Like he wasn't even using his power; it was just like a little glow, like a bulge in the center of his eye.
The last thing I'll say about horticulture, about how terrifying they were, though, is when they're kind of giving Emma the quick backstory about who they are, and it shows the one panel of them saying like, "Oh, we figured out what to do with our like corrupt colleagues." And it's like a bunch of flowers, and it's a body. That's like being the flowers are getting
they were kind of like they were kind of horrifying in like a horror movie kind of a way. And I liked their I liked their weird suits. Like I liked and like the weird what's that called?
It was very steampunky. Yeah, it was very
steampunky, but also had that like what's that long mask?
Like the plague mask.
Yeah, that's the plague mask.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's also
there's little stuff like that. Also, the oldest woman, I suppose, that was in the wheelchair was very reminiscent of like 90s Xavier in the gold chair kind of thing, and I was like, that's kind of fun. It's just little things like that I liked.
Yeah, no, but right, old people are terrifying. If you know
also like in the very end of that where Emma's like, "You were a lot of help, Gateway," and he's just like sitting up to the side. Yeah, he's just like, whatever.
I did like the Gateway reference.
Yeah,
bringing him in for a second.
All right, well, issue 4, State of the World.
Is this
was honestly issue 4. I love this issue. I thought it was so good. I loved it.
I can't like we are such different people. It's weird how we're such good friends and yet we read these comics so differently. It's bizarre to me.
I thought it was awesome as fuck. Them going and meeting with the humans and being like, listen, we've said this already, but like I guess we're gonna say it again. And just Magneto calmly eating while like just like first we're gonna do this, then we're gonna do that, then we're gonna do this, then we're gonna do that. And it was just like intercut with all the red panels of Cyclops just ripping apart the one of the teams of like soldiers that they had on standby, and little stuff like that I really loved. And then I love how you don't see what Gorgon's doing the entire time, and then Gorgon, and at the very end it just shows Gorgon. It's just a hallway of limbs everywhere, and he didn't kill anybody, but he's just chopping off hands and arms left and right. And I was like, that's fucking awesome. I don't know. I thought it was great.
I loved Apocalypse in a suit, and then I loved everything Magneto said when he's talking about how like there's not going to be a war, and he says leverage people with debt, make them pay to be healthy and whole, make them pay to be educated, make them pay you interest so they can have a place to live. Then when you own them, you control them. I have seen what you do. And he says, we will buy your banks, we will buy your schools, we will buy your media, we will buy your politicians because you've taught us everything has a price. And he just kind of like blaze out that like we're just.
And then he's like, and when we bought all of them, we'll buy you.
Yeah,
And I'm just like,
I thought it was. I just thought it was such a. I don't know. I loved it.
I really
loved
liked it too.
And Apocalypse just sitting there in a suit next to him.
I like how the one ambassador.
Oh, go ahead. My main complaint was this was all we've seen this in Powers of 10 or whatever already. Like
we saw the start of it. They like announced it. They made a decree. Like they
they're just repeating. It's just filler, repeating the same shit, and then this is just.
I don't
know. With something this big, you need to check back in with the rest of the humans to like take a pulse on their reactions, kind of thing.
I know.
And their reactions were like the U.S. is going to take them out if they can. Because they're idiots, and Wakanda's just like, we're kind of okay. You guys do it. You guys do you, kind of thing. And I like that too. Like I like the Wakandan ambassador and how he was acting and talking.
Yeah.
I just love that. Like they're mentally. I loved how the one guy was like, "This thing itches," and then he's like, "Did you get that off your skin, you idiot? Like they were gonna find us." And then 2 milliseconds later, Xavier's like, "Scott, there's a team below us and above us and blah blah blah." Yeah. It's just like all this, and I was like, "That was awesome." And then like when Cyclops needed help for a second, he's like, "A little help," and Magneto just kind of holds up his fork, and like the gun rips out of the guy's hands and probably hit the ceiling down below or whatever, and just little shit like that. Like he used his powers, but he didn't make it obvious that he was using his powers.
I have a Patrick question because you've read more of this. So who? The Sentinel factories on the sun and Orcus and everything, who's funding that? Who's behind that?
I mean, they kind of say that
where do they get their money?
I don't know where they get the money from.
No, because we just talked about how the U.S. like doesn't like the Krakoans, and so they're going to send a SWAT team to die. But like, so then what is Orcus? Like, who's behind Orcus? It's not the U.S. Like, who's doing that?
They kind of just make reference that Orcus is, I think it's
Orcus,
Hammer and Hydra and
AIM.
It's like a bunch of different factions have come together to
Hammer. So like Army Hammer's dad's company, or who's behind?
Yeah,
no, it's Hammer, like Norman Osborn's version of Shield or whatever. I think there's people from Shield.
Oh,
I don't. Yeah,
but Shield is the U.S. government, right? So the U.S. is funding.
I thought Hammer was like
probably.
Hammer was. Oh, is that Norman Osborn's thing?
I don't know if they've ever explicitly said where they're getting their money from, but.
Well, I mean, they mentioned more organizations that we're even mentioning. So they mentioned a bunch of like factions of these organizations came together to like make this new thing called Orcus. And I don't know, I'm there for it. I like it.
At this point, Xavier's already been killed once by this issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that happens in X-Force #1.
Oh yeah, they do. That's why they also in the issue they also, I mean, they reference it anyway. That you already tried to kill me, kind of thing.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's not a whole lot of. It's kind of the Magneto show. Well, I mean, Cyclops and Gorgon do some pretty cool. Like he's another character that I didn't know anything about, and I was like, oh, he's kind of he's fun.
Why is his name Gorgon?
He can turn people to stone. I'm pretty sure. I think that's why he has the bandana over his eyes, because I think if you make eye contact,
because otherwise he would turn people to stone.
Yeah. I believe so. Is my understanding. Yeah,
he's Japanese though, right? The character. Because he called him Tomy or something.
Oh, maybe.
I believe so. To answer your question, I also don't know a whole lot about them. That's actually what's kind of fun. I mean,
Gorgon's a new character.
As much as you found it frustrating, I found it like fun to get to see some of these side characters that have been sidelined for so long, or just don't pop up enough, or never really. And they're not like overused. They just they just show Gorgon, and they're like, hey, this makes a lot of sense. Like we realized he'd be a great bodyguard for the Silent Council, and like if any of them ever go anywhere, he'll be by their side. And it was just like, that makes sense. That's a good role for him to have. Like Doug has a good role. Like there's a lot of like the 5 that reanimate them if they die or whatever. Like that was a fun use of those mutants that we don't really see. I don't know.
And,
I like
Gorgon's a new character. So he came out in 2004. He was a Mark Miller invention.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
And his name's Tomi Shishito, like the pepper.
Tomi Shishito.
This issue wraps up with Magneto basically saying like, we told you what we're doing. I've re-explained it to you, And you've already attempted to break that once by killing Xavier. It's not going to work. And if you try it again, expect a response. And that was it. And I was just like, fuck, that was awesome.
Yeah, this issue was meaningless, just like all the rest. All right, what's
So
next?
issue 5. Issue 5, we are introduced. Well, we're not introduced to them. I think they were introduced a while ago. But the Children of the Vault. So the Vault is like new X-Men that when they go into the world with Phantom X, it's basically that same.
The Vault
thing,
is like
but-
that for Sentinels, right?
Well, no,
Okay.
it's like I think it's like the same thing. It's just they've relocated it.
It's
to
for
this, like-
post-humans.
yeah, it's like it's the It's
It's sped up time, babies, and they come out with like evolutionary technologically advanced human
yeah.
at the end, not evolutionary.
So I think when
Um,
they free that girl in the first issue, when Storm frees that. Child
Yeah,
of
this
the
kind of
Vault,
ties
like,
back to that one.
I
So
think
they're chasing that
she-
girl down. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they fought her in the past, like in the early 2010s, probably. I think they
Mhm.
were characters or something. So Wolverine's chasing her, and he's not as great at tracking as I guess we thought he was because he lets her
Well, he
get
tracked
away.
her. He
No,
just
we
didn't
know
get there in
he's the
time.
best at what he does. We know that for a fact.
Yeah,
We
he
didn't kill
followed
her
right
either.
behind her, guys.
He
Followed right behind her.
She got away from him. So why?
You know what's funny about that? Like he's like, I didn't get there in time. I'm like, well, you was probably because you were walking.
Yeah, you were
Yeah,
walking.
he was not
Stop
running.
walking like a badass and run, and you might have gotten there.
He
Like,
wasn't
what's
even
the-
jogging. He's just
He wasn't
slowly
even-
walking. And
He just
yeah, you're
walks
not
out of the
gonna get
woods
there.
like I'm a badass, and then two people are there, and he's like, ugh, come on. And then
Maybe
he
he's
fights them.
also, maybe like Cyclops, he's also just become more Buddhist and just kind of what will be, will be.
Maybe, yeah.
You know?
But so they
Anyway,
they need to
Cyclops
know-
sends some kids away for 537 years and change.
Yeah,
I thought
Yeah,
that was
that's
broken.
another fucked up.
brain.
Like, why are we?
That's
Is that
real
okay?
fucked up.
Is it okay to
No.
do that?
No.
Well, I
It's
think
as
they
bad
fought.
as- It's as bad as burying Sabretooth inside of Krakoa and just
Yeah.
letting him live but not die. It's fucked up.
Or
You're in jail
blackmailing
forever.
rape?
For how
Yeah,
long?
Blackmailing
Ever.
Mystique
Forever.
with the life
Yeah.
of her lover. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So they send Darwin and then Wolverine and Sync in because they can. They're the only ones that can like survive long enough because they're not sure how long they're going to be in the vault because time goes.
They're
way
the only ones
faster
that can
there.
survive long enough just to get in, too. Like,
Yeah,
Darwin, or not Darwin, Sync was putting his hand through the portal or whatever, and it was like ripping him apart. And then he touched, Wolverine, X-23. It's weird
X-23.
calling her Wolverine.
she's.
And
growing
he
on
touched
me.
Wolverine and it immediately healed, and he's like, "Hey, it worked," kind of thing.
So we talked about this with Powers of 10, but I mean, so is Wolverine like legit immortal? Like he can live like 10,000 years?
I guess.
I mean, I guess
I mean,
there was a
she's-
story
I mean-
called. There was a comic arc or like the last Wolverine or whatever, or like Wolverine the
Well,
End.
we also
or
had
something.
Old Man Logan too. I mean, he was an old man.
Yeah,
in
but, I mean, Old Man Logan wasn't even that far in the future, though, even still. But that's my point. The Wolverine, the End, quote unquote, was like Sabretooth, that red sword that can like cut through Sabretooth and Wolverine for whatever reason was in it. I don't remember what the point is with that. But the key is it wasn't that far in the future, and he was real old and falling apart. And I'm like, what? So in this, though, in like Powers of X, it's like, or Powers, God, we say that wrong every time. House of X, Powers of 10 was like, he was alive like a million years in the future. And I'm just like, that's it.
Yeah, it was like 10,000 years. It was something crazy.
Yeah.
20,000 years. Yeah. And then
Wolver-
X-23 Wolverine, they're about to send into the vault for whatever 5,000 years, and they're like,
Well, she's in there for
573 years and change.
Yeah, that's how they end it. They're like, Cyclops asks how long it's been. The guy's like 3 months, and he's like, "Well, how long has it really been?" And he's like 500.
Yeah, and he's like 570.
It would suck,
like,
what if-
what the fuck did I do?
It would suck. It like she comes back out like middle age with like saggy tits, and it's like,
Yeah.
what? I just wasted. Like, what
Yeah,
was
me.
the point? Like my whole life was in that vault.
What did I
and
accomplish?
now I'm-
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's something I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, there's a medical report in the middle of this issue, and it's
Oh.
about Sync, and it's about his one, like basically summing up this giant page of text that Hickman likes to drop into these books. It basically was like, physically he's fine, but psychologically not so much, kind of thing. And then I was just like, what does that mean? And I think the point of that is probably like, when they come out of there, that guy's not going to be sane. Like the other ones, maybe, but like they basically sent somebody in there that's like, he's okay. He's okay. You know, and I'm like, God damn, that's just because his powers are useful. You're like, fuck it, send him in.
Yeah.
Like, damn, Cyclops. Fucking harsh.
But I think, I don't know, because you can sync with Darwin as well. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. Because I haven't read far enough along to see them come back out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, or do they come out? This was RB Silva's art in this one, which I found refreshing change. As much as Leinil Yu is doing a much better job in present day comics than he did in the past with Secret Invasion. Granted, that was like 15, 20 years ago now, but like, he's grown a lot, and I appreciate his art a lot more now. But it was kind of nice to see, like, it's a nice change. A little breath of fresh air with the art. What else? What else about this one?
So that's kind of introducing, yeah. So that's
Issue 6.
That's really all. They just kind of go into like the Children of the Vault.
Yeah, I just wrote. I think it's cool. I like the brief fight. I like their. I don't know, feint to fight.
We got to see a little bit of armor.
Armor and Storm and Cyclops do some fighting to give them time to slip into the vault, and I was like, that was pretty cool. I liked it. It was a cool plan. Anyway, yeah, issue 6.
Issue 6 is kind of all about the stuff that they've been torturing Mystique with, which we kind of talked about.
Yeah, we've touched on this a lot.
Yeah,
it also circles back to powers of 10 and House of X, like that mission that they went on. So like, there's a lot to do with that mission specifically, like when they were gone.
Yeah, and they mentioned that we find out that they are still building Himrod and all that. Nimrod, sorry, whatever.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
such a dumb
I guess
name.
That's important for. Well, Nimrod, it's a biblical name, so
it's still
it has some weight to that.
It used to mean something different than what it means now, though, right? Didn't used to mean great warrior, and now
it's changed. It's changed.
It's because of Bugs Bunny, changed. Right? Isn't it? Or I know he was a great hunter, I guess, and so Bugs Bunny would call it.
Oh, that's what it was.
Nimrod.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Elmer Fudd got dubbed Nimrod, and then the meaning of the word completely changed.
Yeah, well,
that's
he was
so weird how that happens.
I don't know if he was a hunter. I think he was like related to Noah and was just kind of like an early Bible figure. Oh, he was mighty hunter before the Lord, and okay.
Yeah, he was a hunter.
Yeah,
he I did like Mystique. I mean, not to harp on it, I did like how she would clap back at Xavier, and I loved the panel when she's like, I hate you, I've always hated you, and
then Xavier
comes off as such hated and fear, yeah. And then Xavier comes off as such a prick because he says something along the lines where like, this is bigger than it's bigger than me. This is all bigger than
our
me.
Feelings. It's bigger than our feelings. It's definitely bigger than you.
Yeah. He says it's bigger than me. It's certainly bigger than you. Like basically saying I'm
way more important than you, and it's bigger than me. So fuck off.
Like, you're such a piece of shit, Xavier.
Patrick. Side note, you might enjoy this. Nimrod is described as the son of Cush. So, Blaze Life.
Oh, nice. Nice. Word. Well, issue 7 is the Crucible.
Hold on. I wrote Charles and Magneto are dicks, but they're not wrong. Like what they're doing is bigger than her, and fuck her.
No,
but also like,
totally I'm sorry, fuck them. They're awful. Fuck them.
It's also like, just give her if I was Mystique, I'd be like, my wife could be super useful, how she can see the future and everything. Maybe we should.
No, but they don't want. But they don't want her.
Yeah, why do?
I
was gonna ask. Do they want? Why don't they want that? Like, is it about the Moira thing? Like, what? I don't remember.
Because Destiny will be able to. At this point in time, no one knows that Moira is a mutant or how they got to this point. It's all a secret. I'm not really sure why they want to keep it a secret. But if Destiny's resurrected, because Destiny linked up with Moira in the fourth life or whatever, Destiny will
maybe they don't want everybody to know that this is like the last chance they have or whatever, which is kind of like a big part of Moira's lives.
I mean, I don't know.
I feel like that was a point of.
I feel like Moira's just terrified of Destiny and just didn't want her to come back. I think what's fucked up about it is What's fucked up about
because
it
she's
is,
the one who says no destiny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Moira
yeah.
made that rule of like, fuck that person, do not bring her back.
So I think what's fucked up, the most fucked up part is that Magneto and Professor X have no intention of ever fulfilling Mystique's wish. Like
No, of
they
course
keep
not.
sending her, they keep sending her on these missions, and they have no intention. No matter what she does, it's never going to be good enough for them.
Yeah,
to
but they're
resurrect
also
her, so.
not wrong.
They're pretty wrong.
Yeah.
They're pretty wrong. To
No,
do.
what
Well, I
what are
mean,
you talking about? This is the best thing the mutants has ever happened to them.
I don't think. Oh, also,
Um,
Patrick, good job pronouncing Moira.
I'm trying really hard. I'm trying really hard.
You did it right.
Moira.
All right, issue
Moira.
7, The Crucible.
This was an interesting issue, I thought, because the main
Again,
thing,
hard to completely disagree.
Well, it's weird how they brought it up because mutants, a million mutants were depowered by Scarlet Witch, and if they're resurrected, they get their powers back. And so, because the 5 can only resurrect like so many mutants a day, it's going to take years and years and years to resurrect everybody.
So is it like a lottery? How do they choose?
Well, I mean, I think it's because you have to be willing to fight to the death, like in a very painful sword battle with Apocalypse, to get to the head of the line. Because otherwise,
why can't they just kill you?
Because then I mean, I guess they were. I mean,
they
could do that.
Do a lottery system like we do for drafts in Vietnam.
Well, why kill them if they can't bring them back to life yet? Why would you kill 1,000,000 humans that are potentially mutants and then bring them back slowly year after year after year? Like that's ridiculous.
I'm not saying kill them all now and then bring them back. I mean,
but that's what they would have done. That's what Nightcrawler specifically says. The concern was that like they would all commit suicide and get so
yeah.
And I think the way they structure it with the Crucible is that they are aware that they're like a infantile nation that has a lot of enemies, so they want to prioritize the mutants that are willing to like fight and die for Krakoa. They want to give them their powers back as opposed to
I like the hint at like what's to come that we kind of saw in House of X with like Cyclops and Kurt's conversation about like, well, I've already seen, like people talking about wanting to come back in Magneto's body with his powers, but it's them or something like that. And he's like, why not combine 2? And then Kurt's like, why not 3? And then like the way they're kind of like casually talking about that and how fucked up that would be. And then, but in House of X, they clearly have done that because it's like Rasputin is like Kurt, Colossus and like a few other people, and there's like, and I'm just like, interesting. They're already kind of discussing like, I don't know how I feel about that. And then and I don't know. So Al, I enjoyed the existential conversation of like the nature of rebirth and like what it means. And then Kurt and Cyclops are like, are we even us? Like, it's us, but I mean, like, just having been, what's the nature of having a soul and like having a clone embody like my thoughts from before? Does it mean I'm not me anymore? And that kind of thing. And I liked it. It was fun.
I did. Well, for one thing, we don't get an answer to any of those questions. So to me, it's uninteresting to simply ask all these questions and then not get answers to them. Like, fuck you.
No, it's stimulating the reader. It's the author proposing
it's not stimulating the reader. This is philosophy.
It is if you haven't thought it through.
It amounts to nothing. It amounts to nothing.
I think it's just kind of calling itself out on its like magic system, like because that was my biggest thing. It was like, well, it's not really resurrection; it's cloning for the most part. Like it's it's not
right.
The only thing that makes it like, I don't know, less of a clone in the traditional sense of like growing a fake me. It's that my head is now in that me.
Well, it's not your head; it's a copy of your head.
Yeah, it's like the prestige. It's the prestige.
Yeah, it's the prestige. There you go. But that's different from the traditional cloning, where it's the clone is a different me and has had different experiences. Like, it's literally, I'm not there anymore and I live on. And like I went through the Tesla machine and I got murdered and fell into a tank of water. And the other me doesn't know that it's not me.
This whole inventing like Byzantine overly complex rules behind who can be resurrected and why and what, and then philosophically asking questions around it without providing any opinions or answers as the author. It's just lazy. It's not actually providing.
They revisit. I'm pretty sure they revisit all of it later.
Oh, great.
I don't know.
Great that they do that, but they certainly did do it these 7 issues where every issue was a one-shot unrelated to the previous one.
But it's
more exposition to the future. Like, wonderful. This issue didn't do shit.
How would you lay the groundwork for a large, complex story that you're going to lay out?
How about a 12-issue limited run, which already laid the goddamn groundwork? Why are we laying more now? How about you get to the story you need to tell?
These are the beginnings of those stories.
Yeah,
the beginnings were House of X, Powers of X, Ted.
No,
whatever.
that was laying the groundwork. These are the scenes
of
the arcs that are happening now.
More groundwork for other comics titles you have to buy. This is capitalist.
Oh, it's not for other comics titles. It's for more X-Men titles.
You've been bamboozled by their capitalist trappings. Like, none of this means anything.
Oh god.
But I mean, I guess for me is I enjoyed all of it, so I was happy to keep reading more and more issues of it. My big notes on this issue, though, we're trying to relive. I really loved when Cyclops sees Kurt, Nightcrawler, and Nightcrawler's like, "Do you see that building over there?" And Cyclops is like, "Yeah, no one can get into it." And he's like, "Well, I can. I teleported inside of it. There's no doors. I'm the only mutant that can go in there." He's like, "What was it like?" And he was like, "It's the most perfect place. It's exactly where I'd want to live." And it's like it's almost like Krakoa made it specifically for me. And then Cyclops is like, "That's great." And Kurt's like, "Doesn't that make the hair on your arm stand upright?"
He's like, "That's great, but..."
And it's funny
it's
how
also a little disturbing.
Back to Cyclops just being all in, drink the Kool-Aid, Krakoa was perfect. Where Kurt is like, a lot of this is really fucked up. Like, I don't know how I feel about.
It's not that it's because it's not like it's rearing its ugly head or the other shoe is dropped, so to speak. But it's like but Kurt is at least going, yeah, but when is that gonna happen? And why? Like, it's almost like instead of building this paradise, they're building like the perfect prison for themselves or something like that. Like in his head.
They're Krakoa's food, right? So Krakoa's like, be comfortable here, so I can just eat you for all eternity. I mean, that's
I really like Exodus. I like everything about him. And I thought it was interesting that it's not a religion per se, but how Scarlet Witch, him talking to the kids about Scarlet Witch and how she's like the boogeyman to them, and they call her a pretender.
I loved it.
I mean, she's a terrible person.
So good. Yeah,
and she's a terrible person. So good for them.
So I enjoyed the back and forth because even at the end, Cyclops is like, "Well, you were right, Kurt. You sure do have questions." And Cyclops is like, "I don't have any though. I'm gonna go. Bye." Like, he doesn't want to hear it. Like, he doesn't even want to hear that there's bad stuff that can happen.
And this is also the issue where Wolverine and Cyclops sit down and talk. And I actually really enjoyed that conversation too, because it was just like, he's like, "How do you feel about the Crucible thing?" And like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "I don't know. It's their decision, right?" And he's like, "That's a fucking cop out, Logan." And just like, and that's it. And I'm like, I kind of love that. Because he's like,
but they also,
you can't just be Wolverine all the time, Wolverine. You gotta fucking put some thought into it.
And to the difference between Nightcrawler, his view, and Cyclops. I mean, Cyclops he's like the Captain Commander of the Crusaders, right? If you start asking like, what's the church actually up to, you can't do that.
Right.
You have to have some level of just kind of blinders on to be the, do the blood work.
Yeah,
you got to do, the dirty work or whatever you got to do to keep it moving.
He's a good soldier.
Another thing I want to mention. So the girl who gets crucibled is in the Guthrie family. I think that's Cannonball, right? The Guthrie family.
Yeah, Melody Guthrie.
And they talk about they treat them like they're kind of mutant royalty. Like, oh, another Guthrie, welcome back. Like, the Guthries are Kentucky trailer trash. I just want to make that clear. Like, these are not mutant royalty. They're not blue bloods. They're trash. They are white trash from the Kentucky countryside.
Good Lord, Al.
I just want to make that point. I am not
the mutant blood runs strong in that family, and they're fucking amazing.
I am not on board for the aristocratization of the Guthrie family. They're gutter trash. They came from the gutter. They live in that gut. They're never gonna get out of that gutter.
What's the other sister that's Skin? She pulls the Husk. Yeah. Oh, Paige Guthrie.
Yeah. Just disgusting family.
That's a gross. Awesome. That is a gross power that she rips.
Oh, Husk is awesome. She was great back in the day with the Generation X stuff.
They're trash. That's all I got to say about that family.
You know what's funny? Through all of this shit, the one thing that like drives me crazy is the Zorn like retcon that he's an actual character. Like I'm just like, wait a minute. That has nothing to do with this run. Yeah. They're just continuing to use that character as an awesome Zorn character that should have been his own character. Yeah, but like,
it is weird to hear them talk about Zorn as
but they mention Zorn, and I'm just like, oh, that gets something about that just doesn't sit right with me every time because I'm just like, it just jars the Morrison story arc back into my brain.
What is the actual retcon? So it was a Magneto clone that was Zorn. What was the actual retcon now?
I don't think I can answer that question to this day.
Yeah,
I don't know, because there's even that new Avengers storyline where all the mutant energy that Scarlet Witch stole, it like formed into one energy, and then it was like inside that guy, and then it possessed Magneto, and then Magneto screamed Zorn.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
That was insane. That was insane. Yeah. Man, I guess we could Wikipedia it, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know what his state actually is. And
I'm just going to choose to believe that I guess that was a guy that went crazy and thought he was Magneto, but then he's not Magneto though.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway. I totally forgot about that new Avengers thing. That was insane. Yeah.
What do you guys think about Snyder Zeus, you know, and who ranks on that scale?
Oh, they're all on there. Man. I mean, Magneto's on there.
Cyclops.
Scott's on there. I mean, they're all on there.
Oh, Wolverine looks a little doughy in that RB Silva art.
Well, he's a stout. He's a little stout boy.
Yeah, he's got some abs in there.
Wolverine looks like Starscream from the live action Transformers. He is a stout triangle man.
He's a Dorito chip with arms.
Yeah, he is a stout triangle man. That's just what Wolverine is.
Oh God, they fucked up those Transformers so bad.
Who was it that? Oh, Bucky, Captain America. Bucky was like that too. Yeah, some characters just have that Starscream.
Yeah, vibe. Some people just have that. You know, that Dorito chip.
They got that Michael Bay Starscream vibe.
Yeah, Cyclops is ripped. Have you seen that guy? Damn.
They're all pretty. I mean, a lot of them are pretty ripped.
Magneto, holy shit! Do you see him in that white suit?
Oh, Magneto looks good. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, fucking Apocalypse. I know you mentioned it, Patty.
Well, he's a little too bulky.
Apocalypse crammed into that little suit was adorable.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
But how huge Yu was drawing him, I loved it. Like every time, like he's just fucking enormous. Like just towers over everybody. And like when he hugs his great grandchild or whatever, and I'm just like, look at that little baby mutant like, folded into those arms of that giant monster killer.
Are you all getting feedback in your earphones? There's like this weird background buzz I'm hearing. If you listen to, does this pass the Bechdel test? The Bechdel test. The Bechdel test. Does this pass the Bechdel test? The answer is probably no. This one doesn't, right? I don't think it does.
I mean, it depends on like how strict you apply, because I think technically the horticulture ladies all talk before they show up. All the other they took out the other mutants, though. They're all frozen. Mm-hmm. So if you count the,
I guess that's true. They do have like two lines, but I don't know.
Did you say horticulture?
Oh God,
horticulture.
Do you get it? Do you get that one?
Yeah, but I don't know if that really counts for it, because they're like side characters. It's just exposition of
and just exposition. But they have a conversation with Emma too. You know, when all the men are lying on the ground.
I guess Gateway's there. I don't know.
I don't think that counts.
Oh, Gateway's there technically. I mean, you also have Jane and Emma going back and forth for 2 straight pages, but there's a bunch of other people in the room.
But that's also not. I mean, that's not I think the spirit of the Bechdel test is like a real conversation between 2 women.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a flashback though. But Mystique and Destiny, we get to see them talking back and forth.
That counts. For sure.
I love that when Destiny's like, they refuse. Okay, maybe burn it to the ground.
I guess that would count.
That counts.
Although
a woman talking to her wife about the future of them, after her death is absolutely.
It'd be funny though, if like in an interview, Jonathan Hickman was like, "No, that's just the Destiny mask behind it is a man." Because
it's a dude. It's a dude back there.
He's like, I will never pass the Bechdel test. I want to make sure.
All right, so passes on a technicality. Well, passes for real, but also there's a few technically iffy situations that I'd be like, yeah, I'd give it.
But we still can't categorize this as like a strong pass by any means. It's very much
X-Men.
There's no strong or weak passes, Al. It's a pass or fail.
Okay, this is still very much a male-dominated comic.
Sure. I mean, it's a giant ensemble cast. So, and traditionally, a lot of those heroes were men back in the day. So, of course, there's a ton of male characters. So the fact that it passed at all is kind of amazing.
Also, one of the female characters we get is a Guthrie, so that don't count.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
No, they don't count.
I mean, everybody knows the Guthries are trash, you know?
Everyone knows they're gutter trash.
Yeah. Almost as bad as that fucking Wanda Maximoff.
Well, she
who shall not be named.
I mean, we've talked about this on this podcast many times. They're right to hate her. She is awful.
Yeah, they definitely are. They definitely are.
Right to, you know.
Everyone is. Everyone is right to hate her. Never bring her back.
Except for the Avengers, who keep saying, like, well, you're on our team. Yeah, you're an Avenger.
Yeah. I love the little kids' reactions being like, don't say her name. Don't say it out loud. Like it's like Baltimore or something.
Well, I bet they have a Bloody Mary thing. It's like, if you say Wanda three times in front of a mirror, but she probably would show up because she's the star. Yeah. Maybe she actually.
I mean, she probably would. Yeah. And she'd do her little hand gestures, and then suddenly half the mutants are gone.
No more mutants. Fuck you. I hate.
That was really awesome when that happened, though, I have to say. It was a cool storyline.
It was very petty. She ruined the lives of 1 million people to like spite her dad. So,
well, but that's that's very standard chick behavior. Am I right?
Totally.
You gotta spite daddy and you ruin the world.
Daddy issues.
You're betting 1,000. Elitist.
I just lost the Bechdel test. Yeah, I just failed the Bechdel test myself. I'm kidding. First of all, I just want to make sure I'm kidding. I'm not some Sigma male podcaster who hates women, and I do hate.
Well, yeah, I would hope that. Woman, assuming this is someone's first podcast, everything we say is false and
well, except for the Guthries are white trash.
I mean, yeah, of course, the Guthries are white trash.
Their last name is Guthrie. It's Guthrie.
And they're from rural Kentucky. Come on, they're trash.
All right, let's do recommendations.
I didn't mind it. I was ready for it that time. I didn't mind it.
Well, I mean, that's when it should happen.
Yeah, I don't. So I don't recommend. This was dog shit. It was overly convoluted. There's no story whatsoever. It's just pointless. Don't read it.
At some point, Al, you need to our readers / viewers, our listeners / viewers are going to question why you even do this show.
Well, so to be clear, I do want to say, to be clear, I am never reading X-Men again. We're not doing this again. I'm done.
We definitely are. I mean, we're going back.
We tried House of X. I tried this. It's awful. I'm not doing this again.
Well, I mean, that's totally fair that you're saying that right now. But I'm going to. Can I tell you something? We're 100% coming back to the X-Men at some point.
Y'all can
not necessarily these X-Men.
Maybe not.
I would say we should definitely
not. Probably not.
We can explore another era of X-Men, but we don't have to come back to Krakoa.
You know what we should also do? Let's all watch the new cartoon when it comes out, and we'll talk about the first season.
Could do that, yeah.
We all loved the cartoon when we were young. Well, let's just watch the new one. That's all I'm saying.
I'm definitely going to watch it.
We're definitely going to talk about the X-Men again at some point on this podcast. And
yes, the X-Men. We can't not.
Well, I can't do this again. I don't want to read any more Hickman bullshit about Krakoa and no story whatsoever. I can't do that. No. Shit, it is Kirkman?
No, it's Hickman.
No, it is Hickman. Okay. Yeah. What did I say?
You said Hickman.
You said
I did
Kirkman.
Say Hickman. Okay. I don't know who I can't distinguish those two people, but I don't want to do any more Hickman X-Men run. I didn't like this.
Okay.
I didn't like either one we did.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, so next week on the podcast, we're talking about X-Men issues 8 through. I don't know. I unlike Al, as you have heard over the course of this podcast, really like this book, and I'm going to go back and read all the other issues of other stuff and keep going probably. So I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to read more.
I recommend it. I really love this run, and I'm really sad because as of today, October 19th, 2023, it's the rumor mill is saying that they're pretty much scrapping all of this, and everyone's worried they're going to move back to the mansion, and everyone's kind of hypothesizing that because the X-Men are going to go into the MCU pretty soon, they want the X-Men in the comics to kind of match up with whatever they're doing with
Of
the
course
MCU.
they do. Of course,
Yeah,
they
that
do.
makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
which is kind of a bummer, but I really enjoyed it. Does, Al's probably gonna roll his eyes at this, but it does jump the shark a bit later on into the run. I kind of dropped off a lot of the books,
later
but
okay, not at the beginning. Later.
No.
Okay.
I really love it. I would recommend it.
Yeah.
But if you hate House of X, then don't read this run because it's just more.
Oh yeah. If you read Powers of 10 and House of X / and you don't enjoy it, don't keep going because it's just more of that.
Yeah.
It slows down. There's not as much crazy time jumping, it's all just in the present at that point. But yeah. I liked it. What's wrong with you, Al? God damn it.
Yeah, I think
sit back and enjoy a comic book about superheroes. Just like it.
If it's good, I mean, we've read stuff on here that I've liked. This is not good. This is BS.
All right. Okay. Well, that's a no from Al and a yes from me and
in the
Patty.
mansion in an origin story to tie.
Oh god.
And they're definitely going to whittle the team down to like whoever's in the movie.
I would hate to see
what I
them.
mean?
I would hate to see them back in the mansion. That would be.
It's definitely happening. It's going to happen.
So terrible.
It's 100%. They're going to match.
100%. They're going to play to the movie. Of course they are. Yeah.
It's crazy because they just killed Miss Marvel specifically to bring her back as a mutant because she's a mutant in the MCU.
Yeah,
like, it makes no sense.
No, it makes sense because the MCU is what's driving.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, which is wild.
Which is it's going to eat its own tail at some point, and that's
yeah.
Well, I wonder what's going to happen because these Marvel movies are already not making money anymore. So I wonder what.
You know what they should do? They should make some sort of alternate comic line that matches the movies. Call it the Ultimates.
I feel like there's rumors too about them bringing the Ultimates back.
I mean the Ultimates. I mean like the Ultimate X-Men.
Yeah.
But that's what that was back in the day. Like the X-Men movies were coming out, Spider-Man was coming out, and they're like, how do we get new readers from the movies to read comic books? Let's make a different universe. And that's where all that shit came from.
Here's another thing that Marvel editors might want to know. You're not getting new viewers. You're not getting new readers. Like that's just, it hasn't happened in the past 20 years. It's not happening now.
Yeah, just keep making good comics. If you want the X-Men comics to match the movies, then, make X-Men comics or just republish old X-Men volumes and be like, hey, new readers of the X-Men, you're watching this movie. Here's this, bound together story arc of the Phoenix or whatever.
Yeah, I really hope they do the Phoenix again.
This crazy idea that they're like one rebrand away from mainstream young kids just buying comics again is insane.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Crazy. It's never going to happen.
Stop trying.
Yeah.
All right, but that's it.
All right,
we did.
That's been Mobius Couch for this week. I think we did it. Boys.
Good journey, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.